Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me okay? Alright, this is my new splash screen. New intro. How's it going, guys? Happy Friday. You can hear me. Awesome. Alright. Very cool. Let's see. I'm trying some different things on this stream. I'm trying my new intro and all that kind of stuff to make the stream and Q&As better, you know, just being geeky like that. How's everybody doing on this Friday afternoon? I've just been reading the comments. Jose, you asked if I made that little hamster. I wish they give that to the amazing in-house people. I just did a skin for Zenyatta, so it should be showing up, I hope, August or September sometime, just end of summer, I think is when you'll see it, and I'll definitely show you guys. There's on YouTube, there's always a delay, so I'm sorry if my answers are delayed a bit. And thank you very much for the kind words. I am super anxious to get some stuff going. I guess I can still sit in full screen if I'm talking to you guys. I just did a 2-hour lesson, and I wanted to show you guys another pose lesson, because I know a lot of you struggle with posing. It sucks in ZRemesh. I'm not gonna lie. So I wanted to show you guys an actual real contract work that I did for Playful. So Playful came to me and asked me if I could pose 2 of their characters in 2 different poses. So I was kind of under a time crunch, so I posed 3 of them without recording. But on the 4th one, I recorded the entire pose session, and it took me 2 hours. And I talked through the whole thing, and I recorded it, and I think it turned out pretty good. I want to release it, but I'm waiting for the NDA to be lifted. So there's an NDA on that, from Playful, but they did agree to allow me to show you guys the actual pose session. So that's cool, but I just have to wait until I get the green light on that. Then I'll put that up. And then what else is happening? I'm working on, and I've been working on this forever. I know there's kind of a gray area in the course where right after you get done blocking your character, there's like, what do I do now? You know, this kind of gray area where it's like, do I Dynamesh? Do I ZRemesh? Do I combine? Do I do this? Do I start making clothes? Do I start adding detail? What do I do? So I'm trying my hardest to get some lessons in there and reorder that sequence a little bit so it makes a lot more sense to you guys. And I do cover some of it in the clean and polished lesson, if you guys have watched that. But in today's Q&A, I kind of wanted to give you a semi-short live lesson on when it's kind of like, I've blocked out my character, now what? You know, that's what today is all about. And your whole workflow is a gray area, Matt. Let's see. Let me see what you guys are asking me. My monitor is far away and the text is small, so I'm like, today. Let's see. Oh, what's an NDA? It's called a non-disclosure agreement. And when you get into the industry, the game industry, the toy industry, film, television, you will be signing NDAs that say that you will not tell anybody what you're working on until the thing is released, because it's a very secretive industry, and that's why you'll see a lot of films being released with kind of the same content, like bugs and ants, you know, like this and that, because they'll catch wind of what the other companies are doing and they'll want to compete, and it's just kind of silly. So since the the game that I pose these characters has not been released yet. At least the characters. They have said what game it is, but they have not shown the characters yet. So a lot of times it's kind of hooked in with like press releases and stuff like that. So they don't want you to reveal their characters as an artist on ArtStation or something like that. They want to reveal them because it's something exciting. But since I am just showing you guys behind closed doors in the course, I might be able to get away with showing it to you sooner than they release the characters. So I just need to get permission to do it. So as soon as I get permission, I'll put it up there. So, oh, thanks. That's another thing is I'm trying to hook my camera up to my phone. There's a way, I didn't even know this. I bought this camera, I didn't even know it had this function until like last week. But I can hook my phone up to my Wi-Fi camera and I'll be able to focus. So I can focus on some of these toys back here. They're way blurry right now, but I'll be able to show you guys and talk about it. So yes, it's coming. Okay. And hey, what's up, Jace? How you guys doing? Welcome everybody. This is a good turnout today. I'm super excited. Okay, let's see. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this method that I've been using in my past streams for, if you guys have been watching my streams for a few months now. And I've been wanting to do a lesson that covers this technique, and you guys probably know what I'm talking about. If you do, this is going to be a refresher. If you don't, it might be new. I still see a lot of the students in the community posting characters that do not have a mouth cavity. I keep wanting to call it a mouth bag because inside the game community, they call it a mouth bag for some reason, like it's a bag, you know? It's weird. So I like mouth cavity. It just sounds better. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, you know, usually it's, you know what, like with our toys, it was Walmart that would release the dates and who it's going to be. And, you know, Walmart just does what they want. You know, they're just going to like, they put their ad dates and they say who's coming out and yeah. So it's usually, I remember hearing about things, you know, coming out from my own studio and I would learn it from like Walmart or something. Anyway, it's really, really silly. You guys may have seen an image that I post in the community every once in a while, kind of showing the technique on how to do mouth cavities. But it goes further than just mouth cavities. It's kind of a different workflow, and I want to show you also what has been added in 2018 to combine your shapes together too. Okay, so I'm going to cover those things. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Cody? How's it going, Sean? I feel like it's always Romper Room. You guys remember that show, Romper Room? Okay, let me see. Sorry, let me just grab this image. You guys have all seen it. I think if you haven't seen it, I wanted to show you again because it's kind of the process in one image. Man, I have too many images for a 3D character workshop. Okay, let me make this bigger. I also wanted to ask you guys a question. And that has to do with new lessons as well, and I'll get to that. But you guys may have seen this image right here. You guys see this? Am I blocking? Okay, I'm only blocking a few words here. Okay, so essentially you start out, just like I teach in the course, with your blocked out primitive shapes to block out your head, and then Dynamesh your head. Now this is where it's going to change. This is what I've taught in the past, and this is where it's going to change a little bit. Okay, so Dynamesh, and then ZRemesh, and then you can create a mouth several different ways. You can extrude in using ZModeler. You can mask it off. You can just, you know, just several different ways of pushing it in. Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a change in your planes so your ZRemesh loops will follow that change, okay? And when it happens, it will follow it nicely, or else it should. Then you end up with something like this, and then you can close that mouth. Then you can go and start to reshape it and without putting any subdivision levels on your head. And this, you'll get something like this as the result. And your mouths will, well, they should come out looking a lot better because they're built like a realistic mouth that actually has a cavity, rather than trying to cut a line in there and then building lips around that line. It's just a lot more difficult to build that way, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me close this. You've never, okay, yeah, you've never seen where like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I apologize for the delay. This is kind of, I wanted to just kind of give you a live preview of the lesson before I actually put it in, and I want to get questions from you guys, so I make sure I cover everything. So it's kind of a unique way of me going about finishing off this lesson before I upload it to the course. And it might even be 2 lessons. It depends on how much information there is and how I organize it. But if you can see this, let's see. Tarda, Shane, could you show how to make some clothes, like change sweaters, pants, skirts, etc.? I find some difficulties in making them happen. Tara, I probably won't do that during this because I have a specific thing that I'm going to show during this. But now that I know that you need to know that, I'll make sure that I cover that at some point. So, okay. Let's see. So this is the first head. This is blocked out. This is after I've put in primitive shapes and I've kind of pushed them around. And I'm going to turn off dynamic. If you guys should be using dynamic subdivisions, okay? And that's a biggie. And it's weird because this is what it looks like underneath if I turn dynamic subdivisions off. It's kind of low resolution. Do you guys want to see me get to this point? I'm kind of doing a cooking show style where it's already done, but let me go here, and I'll just kind of quickly show you how I got to that point if you guys want to see it. So I mean, I've blocked out heads over and over and over again, and it's the same thing. Nothing really new. But essentially I just pull this piece under here, and then I just start shaping it with the move tool. And I can turn on dynamic anytime, which is I just push D. That turns on dynamic. That's why I've added it to my user interface. So you guys should all have my user interface, and hitting D will turn on dynamic subdivisions. And if you don't know what that is, pipe up and I'll explain it. Then I usually put this bottom shape at or near the eye line, and then I try to get the jaw to match up with it. It kind of resolves behind the ear, and sometimes I'll have to hide the actual skull piece. And I like to shape the skull kind of like this, and it's quite wide, so I'm going to shape, squeeze the whole head in like this. And that jaw is sticking way out, so I'm going to turn on topological and push this in and up. And I don't have a concept right now. I'm just kind of doing this out of my head, and then it kind of wraps around, and your chin just kind of goes down like this, and it gets pointier from the front. You can smooth it down. Then you just insert your neck. The skull resolves below your ear, like right below your ear. That's where the point changes down to the neck. Okay, so I also have a really, really cool thing coming, and I don't know how long it's going to take me. Hopefully not too long, but I've mentioned before I'm doing a stylized anatomy module, and I have Josh Black doing some drawings for me right now, and I'm going to model what he's drawing for me, and I'm so stoked about it because it's going to be cool. I know a lot of you are struggling with anatomy, like especially hands. Hands are hard. Hands can be just as difficult as the entire character itself. This guy is Mr. Longneck Johnny. Okay, so anyway, look forward to that. It's going to be really cool. I just don't know when I'm going to be able to get it done, but I am focusing on the course 100% nowadays. Okay, so I'm just getting a neck in there, something like that. And then I'll, I put ears, and sometimes I will start to push the eyes in. I'll turn off topological because I want to pull both spheres in, like so. And then I'll just kind of get eyeballs in there and match it up. And then it just kind of creates a natural shape where the eyes can sit. Okay, so if I go back to this one, another thing that I've done here that I haven't done on the other one yet is I've added a nose, and I just use the appendage brush to do that. This long appendage just to bring the nose in. And you'll see that these brows are kind of destroyed in the low resolution, but if I turn on dynamic subdivisions and I turn off the preview or the polygroups and the wireframe, you can see the pinch in the brow. That's kind of what I want, okay? And then a lot of you miss the peak that goes underneath the eye. That's the jaw line right here. So it goes two different directions, and I'm going to cover this in the anatomy lesson, in the anatomy module, but I wanted to kind of show you up front. It kind of goes all around the eye right here, back, and it makes a point kind of in this area pointing towards the ear, and then back up the brow. And then there's two other plane peaks that happen. One that goes down the skull and one that goes down the cheek. Okay, so if you go back like this, that's the one that goes down the skull. This is a plane change that happens down the skull. And that, if you see eyebrows and they have that peak happens right at that skull third crease change, okay, which is pretty cool. Then, if you guys have seen Incredibles 2, you'll notice this. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should, and study the character faces because they are absolutely phenomenal. I've actually thought about going to the theater and like taking pictures, with my camera just to show you guys what I'm talking about. If you look at Mrs. Incredible, Mr. Incredible, and the main antagonist, well, it's the antagonist. The main, he's not really the antagonist. The guy that hires Mrs. Incredible to do her thing. So that guy has this ridge, and this ridge goes from here down his skull, back around his eye to here, then down his face and around his mouth, like that. It's super duper prominent, and it's awesome. You guys should check it out. It's very, very cool. Oh, you have to wait till September in Italy? Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can show you really quickly. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody asked about the Cintiq. It's just the 2017 27-inch. So that's what this is. Okay. Oh, there's too many images. Then I was going to tell you about Mrs. Incredible. She has, so if I go back on this, so let me get rid of that line. Hers just goes back up and points to her nose, right? And you'll notice, I'm going to change, let's see. Okay. Let me go to select lasso. You'll notice in this area of her face, it's very, very smooth. So the transition, let me make an arrow. I learned this from Dylan Ekron. The transition from the bridge of her nose down to her cheek like this, since she's a female, it's super duper soft. But if you look at Mr. Incredible, his nose has these two peaks that are very, very sharp that go all the way up, like from here all the way up his eye line and back around. Okay, so check that out. If you see the movie, watch for that. Also, the baby, let me see if I can show you guys what I'm looking at here. It happens with the baby too. He's very, very smooth from his nose to his face. So like females, babies, things like that, you can look for. It's kind of hard to see because a lot of times they have their mask on and the mask actually covers what's going on there. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I can find the concept of it. And I'm gonna check out your comments. Okay. Okay, I'll change the material so you guys can see it. Sorry about that. Too many mask images. Maybe if I say like TWO. Okay. Can I see this? Gosh, it's going to be a full-on site. Anyway, you can kind of see his ridge in his nose. It's probably really small on my machine, on my screen here, but it's very, very creased. And see how it goes down his eye, around the back, and across his cheek. And that cheek is it's very, very prominent, that edge across his cheek. And then if you look at, let's see. I don't know if it's going to even work. There we go. So if you look at her nose, it's very smooth as it goes down and across. Yeah, you can see it in some of these right here. See that? There's no ridge happening at all. It's almost smooth flat. There's just barely a bump there. It's just really interesting to see. Oh, at the beach? I just need a big one is what I'm looking for. Let's do Mr. and see if it'll pull it up. Also, his side profile is crazy. It goes right from his forehead down his nose and hooks back, and then his chin comes out. You can't. There you go. Look at that. Bam. And look how far back his eye is in his head. And then you can see that ridge right there. And you can also see the shape language repeated in his ear. See that? That same shape. And that's kind of what I was talking about with those. Okay, I'm completely getting off on a tangent. Let's go back. Let's go back and we'll talk about. I just wanted to talk about these ridges and the ridges that you should be paying attention to when you're kind of blocking this out. Okay. Then this is where the new technique differs, is essentially just on the Dynamesh level. Okay. So I used to, let me change materials. Oh. So in the current course, I say block out your character and then Dynamesh the pieces together, because that is kind of the way that you used to do it. Yeah, he totally has a bean face. Let's see. Material. Hey, what's up, Britt? Yep. Okay. Okay, Lou, I can actually bring Dash. Did I show you Dash last time? I have him. I can show him to you. But let's see. So I'm going to turn on these polygroups. Okay, so this is before. This is the, so after block out, and I've done some creasing. Then after that, I can ZRemesh the pieces, and I might have to go back in there and add creases again, because when you ZRemesh, it kind of loses some of the creasing. But it's not a big deal to go back in there and just bring them back in. And then in the course, I taught you to Dynamesh it, okay? And you can see what happens when you Dynamesh. And one thing that I'm not showing here is if you turn off dynamic and then you forget to hit apply, so you forget to turn on the subdivisions and then you Dynamesh, it will Dynamesh and leave all of these facets, and you'll have to go in there and smooth it out. Kind of a pain in the butt. It's just an extra step for you to have to remember, and I'd rather not. I can't remember all that stuff, so I'd rather not. And so I choose to do it this way instead. Okay, so instead of Dynameshing and then ZRemeshing that, there's a new method, and I've been showing it during my streams, and it's in 2018. if you open up the gizmo by hitting W, then you hit this gear, there are these 3 different options. There's remesh by Dynamesh, remesh by Union, and remesh by ZRemesher, okay? So we are going to choose remesh by Union. So if you pick that, sometimes you'll get an error, and there's ways to fix this. I get this error all the time. So see, it says please turn off symmetry or update the masking to include symmetrical parts. That's because I have symmetry turned on right here. Okay, so I can do one of 2 things. I can either, and I think if I hold down Alt and I click on this home, that's gonna put the gizmo in the middle of the world. See this? These are the planes, and this head is sitting at the middle of the world, and that just kind of sends the gizmo to 0, 0, 0 of world space. Now I can hold down Alt and click on this circular arrow right here, and that's gonna, if the gizmo was kind of tweaked like this, that would reset the gizmo to the world axis. Now I think I can try it again, go back to ZRemesh by Union, and it'll work. There it goes. And it still works on symmetry. Okay, so now what that does is it stitches everything together just like Dynamesh would, but you'll notice it didn't destroy the surface of my model. I don't know what it's doing right here. There must have been some kind of geometry floating in space, but you'll notice that it stitches everything together, and that's super nice. So now what you want to do is you want to accept this remesh by Union, and you can just click this gear. It can be kind of hidden. You can't see it very well. It's kind of darked out. So you click on the gear and then you hit accept. And if you don't like it, you can always hit reset or delete. Okay, I'm just going to hit accept, and now it's ZRemesh by Union. This is super duper cool. Okay, and I'll show you why. Dynamesh, we're going to go to this monkey. We're going to this monkey that I helped one of the students out when they were blocking this guy out, and this is kind of my take on him. But he's perfect for this demonstration because he has this really giant mouth. Okay, I'm going to switch back to Skin Shade 4, so he looks better and he's brighter, and you guys can see him better. So okay, so you can see the geometry. This is about the density that I like to work in. So he has been blocked out with his primitives, and he's been ZRemeshed. Okay, that is another thing that you can use remesh by ZRemesher for if you want. And there was a question yesterday from one of the students asking. Actually, I was talking to Steve James yesterday, and you've probably seen the interview with Steve. But we were talking about the difference between the ZRemesher that lives over in the geometry menu over here. So if you go over here to geometry, ZRemesher, and you'll see it right here. That's how I teach it in the course right now. And you're probably wondering, what's the difference between that and the one that's under the gizmo? Okay, so the one that is, if you click on this, ZRemesh or remesh by ZRemesher, I'm going to show you. The only difference is it uses all the same parameters. Like if you click buttons like keep groups over here, for example, it's going to remember that when you do a remesh by ZRemesher. That's kind of a tongue twister, but it will remember those settings. So it uses both, and essentially they're exactly the same. The only thing that's different is it's kind of like a temporary. It's a temporary state that you put him in, or you put your character in, when you hit remesh by ZRemesher. It will put a bounding box over it with some cones, and it will remember your original character. And so you can try different resolution settings until you get it exactly the resolution that you want. So that's really cool. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to duplicate this guy, and I'm going to hide the original. Then I'm going to Dynamesh him, and I'll Dynamesh him with so I'm going to put the gizmo back down at 0, 0, reset it, then hit this gear, and then hit remesh by Dynamesh. Okay, and it's going to give me this bounding box. This is very similar to remesh by ZRemesher, but now you're Dynameshing. And you don't see anything happen yet, but you'll see this white cone, and you'll see this red one and this blue one. This red one is, here, let me turn them so you can see the text maybe. Come on. There we go. Reproject, either no or yes. That just essentially, you know, in Dynamesh, it will reproject your initial detail back onto the new Dynameshed version. And then this blue cone is just how smooth the end result of your Dynamesh will be. Okay, so if I drag this cone out, you can kind of see these white numbers. It's very hard to see. They're on his pelvis. And I can crank this up to about 127, okay? So now he's Dynamesh. That's very, very cool. But say I want to change the resolution. I can just grab this white cone again, and you'll see it pop back. See, it remembers the state that he was before I ran the Dynamesh. So this is very nice when you want to experiment with the level of subdivision, or the level of Dynamesh, I guess. So that's really nice because it's no longer kind of a guess when you're over in the regular Dynamesh under the subtool menu, the geometry menu. You would put in some random number and try it, and then you'd be like, I don't know what these numbers mean. They're not matching up. But with this one, it's more visual and it's kind of a test. So you can be like, okay, that looks pretty good. But one thing you'll notice with this guy, with Dynamesh, what happened to his mouth is it got closed. That's what Dynamesh does. It closes the holes, which is great if you're trying to make a watertight mesh for 3D printing. It's not great if you're trying to make a character and you want to keep the mouth cavity intact, okay? So now we've kind of destroyed our mouth, and that's not what we want. So let's go back. We'll hit this gear, and we'll say delete. We don't want that. So let's back up. I guess I didn't have to duplicate him because I just didn't do it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remesh this guy by using the new union that I was showing you with the mouth, okay? So if I click on the gear and I say remesh by union, it's going to stitch him all together at the joints. It's going to do the exact same thing that Dynamesh does, but it's not going to actually physically Dynamesh his surface. You can see all of the original ZRemeshed geometry is still intact, and it's great. This is what I like. But it got rid of all the interior geometry where everything overlapped. So all of the, like when the shoulder overlapped into the body, it got rid of that interior geometry just like Dynamesh would. But let me see. I don't think it might have stitched his mouth together, did it? Man, I'm showing you something that I might have to pull his mouth apart. Oh my gosh, it did stitch it. Okay, but not here. That's really weird. I guess if it's overlapping, I was thinking that it had to be in separate polygroups to do that. So hold on a second. I haven't used this a ton, so let me fix it really quick. So I can turn this down to range 3 and just pull his lips apart a bit. You know what? I think I know why. Are his lips even... I don't think they're actually built correctly. Did I not build them correctly? I think there's actually a seam way down deep inside there that's not... he doesn't have a giant mouth cavity. So we're gonna do this. That's why it's stitched together. It normally would not. Okay, if you have a mouth cavity, you have lips. Putting it together by union will not stitch it together. But it looks like I was in a rush when I built this guy, and he doesn't actually have a mouth cavity in there. Okay, so yes, Cosmo, ZRemesh by union is only in ZBrush 2018, so you'll want to upgrade. And its upgrades are free, so you should upgrade anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one thing though, because I'm still going to just pretend it didn't stitch his mouth together. We'll look over that. If he had a regular mouth cavity, it would work. Okay, so I'm going to pull this open, remesh by union. Okay, now I can accept this. Okay, and you'll notice all the polygroups are still intact. It just stitches everything together, like kind of like a doll, if you're making a doll. And what you can do too, well, I'm going to ZRemesh him now. Okay, so that's kind of the next step. So you combine all of your primitive shapes together. So let's go back. Step 1, block out your character with primitives. Step 2, remesh by union. Step 3, remesh by ZRemesh. So that's your third one. And you will want to keep your parts separate that are made of different materials. So you'll notice that like his hair on his cheeks, his eyeballs, his eyebrows, they're all different materials. Their hair, their eyes, they're not part of his skin as it were. So those are in different subtools. I don't want to merge those all together. That's kind of a beginner mistake, is for people to block out their character and actually include their clothes and stitch their clothes all together. So the rule of thumb is if it's made from a different material, put it in a different subtool. Okay, I'm just talking about combining your base mesh. This is how to make a base mesh. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to remesh by ZRemesher. Okay, so if I click on that, and you'll get a new set of cones for this one. Okay, you'll get these cones over here, and these are your symmetry cones. That's all they're for. So symmetry on Y, Z, and X. So I want to pull on that X one until it's out because I want it to be symmetrical across the X axis. And this white cone over here is exactly like the Dynamesh cone. It just tells you what your resolution is. That's it. So I can pull on this, and I'll typically try to get it around 5,000 or so, something like that. And you'll see it does it pretty quick. And since I had keep groups on, you'll notice that it kept all of the poly groups and just ZRemeshed around those. That can be a good thing. That can be a bad thing. ZRemesher is not perfect. So sometimes you might get really strange faces in there, and this is not a mesh that's going to be used for an in-game mesh. This is just a base mesh that will help you keep your character smooth and give you something to move forward with. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so we're going to zoom in here and I'll show you what I mean. This is not by any means a perfect mesh. You can see these right here, and it's looking nice around the thighs. It's looking nice around the belly and the ribs, and even the feet. It starts to lose whenever you go off of a parallel plane that's parallel with the world, like the world axis, either vertical or perfectly horizontal. That will give you good loops. It will give you good loops if it's an easy thing for ZRemesher to follow. But occasionally it will give you spirals still, even though they updated ZRemesher, it will give you spirals. So typically I will actually not keep groups, okay? Because like I said, sometimes it will just mess with your stuff. And there isn't really a reason to keep groups. It doesn't matter that much. I mean, some people, like my buddy Matt Thorup, he likes to keep nice loops around his eyes and things like that. And if you can get ZRemesher to behave like that, that's great. I just don't have as much success with it as he does, and it's kind of a luck thing, I think. You know, it's like hold your breath and do ZRemesher and see if it makes a nice mesh for you. But the whole point of this is just to give yourself a nice base mesh to then continue on with, to sculpt on with. And the whole point of getting it to this state is to turn dynamic subdivisions back on so you can continue to refine your character without adding subdivision levels, okay? And the reason why is because subdivision levels are they're something that you want to add at the very, very end, or as close to the end as possible. And the reason why is because there are a lot of tools, especially like with ZModeler and like I can't think of, they're just, most of the tools do not work with subdivision levels, okay? Like cutting and slicing and all that kind of stuff. None of that works with subdivision levels. So you'll get errors. So it's better to stay in a non-subdivided mode for as long as possible until you reach the end. And the reason you would want to add subdivision levels is to either add color, like gradients and things like that, because even though this is a kind of a higher density mesh, solid colors work well, some gradients will work, but when you have very tight detailed colors, you will need subdivision levels. Like if you're drawing lines, or if you're transferring like stickers or decals or something on top of your mesh, you will want to have subdivision levels. Or if you want high resolution surface detail. So if you get to the point where you're starting to add like cuts in your surface or lines or, you know, specific things. Otherwise, you want to stay in this dynamic subdivision mode for as long as possible. I can't stress that enough. That's kind of the whole new workflow. So it's something that I don't specifically teach in the course right now, other than inside that clean and polished lesson. So I'm going to be, that's what I'm going to be updating. Okay, so I'm going to go back actually and undo this and go back to here, because I want to go back to geometry and turn group loop, keep groups off, then turn on ZRemesher, and we're going to do this again, and I'm going to show you the difference between keep groups and not keep groups. Okay, so this is not keeping the groups, and it looks pretty good, and you'll see that it kind of keeps it, it makes an overall mesh a little nicer. And if I click on that gear again, it's kind of hidden, and hit accept, now that goes away, and I can start coming in here, and it's a lot easier to smooth out your seams now, because your mesh is a lot lighter density, okay, than if you were to Dynamesh this. Okay, so if this was a Dynamesh now, it would be a little more difficult to smooth. But now that it's a dynamic, so I'm going to turn off dynamic so you can actually see the facets in here. So I can just kind of quickly, let me turn on my symmetry. I can just quickly smooth these seams out very fast. Lou, you're making a dinosaur and you're afraid to leave dynamic. Yeah, you know, okay, if you're afraid to do it, just duplicate it. Just duplicate a new subtool. And then do it in the new subtool. That way you always have something to go back to if you accidentally messed it up. So also, you guys notice that this monkey, I don't have multiple sections. Like when in the block out of him, I didn't have his arm broken into two sections. I didn't have his legs broken into two sections. He doesn't have kneecaps. I think when you guys start blocking out your character, you start having a lot of fun, and you're like, I'm gonna add more. I'm gonna put more muscles in there, and I'm gonna put, you know, different shapes and things to really detail them out. And that's not really where you want to go with it. You want to, I guess the rule of thumb is only put enough shapes in there. And I think I did say this before, but only put enough shapes in there to define the volumes. That's all you need. If your character actually has, in the concept, if the arm actually has an elbow and shapes and muscles and things, if it has it, put it in. You know, that's fine. But if it doesn't, you don't necessarily need to put in multiple shapes. Also, if you ever see other people like Dylan Ekron block out a character, with his legs, he usually does one shape for his entire leg. He doesn't break it up. I do. I like to. So that's another thing, is just kind of do your own thing, whatever feels comfortable. If you like blocking out your character with more shapes, then by all means do it. You know what I'm saying? So, okay. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to get back to the mouth cavity. I just wanted to show you how cool ZRemesher was. Also, I want to show you how ZRemesher can work just like Dynamesh, in the fact that you can do experimentation with it. So say I wanted this guy to be a demon instead of a monkey, okay, and I wanted to put some horns on him. I could grab the snake hook brush. I'm going to turn off RGB and I'll turn on the poly groups, and you can see this. I'm now, notice that dynamic is turned off right now. I'm just working on the low resolution shapes. Also, I don't have eye cavities necessarily for him, and you'll notice also, excuse me, that this mouth doesn't have a cavity. I could grab this row of polygons in there if I could actually grab it and pull it in and make a mouth cavity. And his nose isn't the best as far as geometry goes. This is the only time I will use Sculptress Pro mode. Okay, I'm not going to do it with these horns because I want to show you how you can do some experimenting with this. But I'm gonna pull out these horns, and you'll see right away that you lose geometry and they go away. Okay, it's like it's not a good horn, right? So I can, but now, just like Dynamesh, if he was Dynameshed, I could re-Dynamesh this and it would give me proper, you know, some more geometry that I can then continue on with, okay? So there's that, but I can also do Remesh by ZRemesher, grab this, pull on the cone a little bit, and it's gonna remesh those horns. But it also, you need to be careful because it also loses some of the detail in there. So every time you ZRemesh, it kind of smooths and shrinks just slightly. So just pay attention to that and make sure you don't lose some of that detail. Most of the time you're in a blockout state anyway, so you don't really care. And I can just hit accept, and then I can smooth these horns out. Whoops, let me turn on symmetry. There you go, horns, right? So you can see how it rebuilds the mesh around it while still keeping it low. You don't have to go to Dynamesh and then ZRemesh, and it's just a nightmare. This is really fun to actually mess around with and experiment with. You know, you can pull things out and just ZRemesh all the time. And for this eye cavity, I'm going to solo this. You can see I kind of want the geometry to flow around his eyes a little better, just so when I get in there and I do some details, like say in some of the brows, when I do some of, because you can use the pinch brush when you're in this low resolution state, which you can see in this head right here. So I pinched this right here, and even though the geometry looks not great, you can see that pinch still works at that lower resolution. So if I go back to this gorilla and I zoom in right here, what I can actually do, and this is, like I said, this is one time where I will actually use Sculptress Pro mode, because you saw that with those horns, the geometry kind of went low, and then when I ZRemeshed it, it wasn't the best, right? So I had to smooth it out because it ZRemeshed that low resolution mesh, and it's not the best looking horn, right? So if I go back here and I turn on Sculptress Pro mode with snake hook brush active, that's another thing with Sculptress Pro mode, is it does not work with move. Okay, see how it got grayed out right here? Move will do the same thing. It'll just pull it and it won't do anything. You have to be on something that works with Sculptress Pro mode, like the snake hook brush, and you'll see it light up right here. Okay, and if you don't have Sculptress Pro on your user interface, just make sure you grab my latest user interface. I think there's a version in the resource section, and there's also a version in the ZBrush startup in the very, very beginning module. It's off on the right hand side. You can just download it, and if you still can't find it, let me know and I'll point you to it. Okay, so now you'll see my cursor turn purple. Okay, so purple means you're in Sculptress Pro mode, and if you grab the surface, you can see that it's actually adding geometry, and it'll allow you to pull it up and out just like Sculptress. Okay, so if you've ever used Sculptress, that's what it does. It's called dynamic tessellation, but it changes everything to triangles, and that's fine too, for what we're doing, because we're just getting geometry. We're making geometry that then we can ZRemesh after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to pull in these eye cavities, and the bigger the change of direction, the better for ZRemesher to follow, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to try and just make an eye cavity in here. And what I'm trying to do is get ZRemesher to follow this circle. Okay, I can also kind of force ZRemesher to follow peaks and valleys. So that's what I'm doing, a big change of direction. That's where ZRemesher likes to run the loops, just like around this mouth. See how it's kind of running around that big valley, okay? And I've kind of lost some of this in the nose. So what I can do is I can actually smooth this out with my smooth brush. Come in here, and then I can get my pinch brush or my detail brush. Now pinch, it will not follow a pinch because the surface is not being peaked or valleyed very much, okay? So ZRemesher will not follow it as well as it will a displacement. So if you're using a detailed brush to push it in very far or pull it out very far, and it will possibly make your geometry look weird. So I'm going to turn off, and I'm going to put kind of this nose back in. Okay, so I can smooth these out and just kind of make a valley for ZRemesher to follow. So say if I wanted the ZRemesher to follow around these eyes as well, what I can do, I'm going to turn up the intensity, and then make a peak around the eye temporarily for the ZRemesher to follow. I know it looks really weird, and you're like, why would you do that? You're ruining your sculpt. And it's just because I want to temporarily make ZRemesher follow that guide. So now that I have that, looks really weird, I know. I can hit this gear, ZRemesh. I'm going to pull the cone and hold our breath. Hopefully it'll do something that we want. And if you want to see more examples of this, the last few streams, not the ones that I've done with the cowboy, but I've done some Josh Black heads in my stream. So if you go back to the Pixelogic channel, the YouTube channel, you can watch my past streams. I think you can also see them on Pixelogic ZBrush Live. And you can see my past streams there as well. So I used this method on the last 2 or 3 heads that I did, so you can watch that. Okay, so now you can see ZRemesher, see it's following that peak, it's trying to at least, and now it's giving me some good geometry. So what I can do is click this gear and say accept, and now I can hit D for dynamic, which will make it smooth. And I'm going to turn off Sculptress Pro mode. Make sure you turn that off because you don't want to subdivide it anymore. But you can see that it cleaned up that nose and it made nice eye cavity and it followed this ridge. Now I can come in here and smooth this ridge out because I don't want that ridge necessarily. That was just temporary to give me the geometry in place. And now he's kind of a demon monkey. And I can always go in here with Sculptress Pro mode and get rid of these horns really easy. ZRemesh again, and you know that's kind of the way you can do it. And you can also do that with your ears. You can actually use ZModeler. Here, let me answer a question. Let's see. Looks pretty handy. Look forward to trying it. Yes. No more Dynamesh webs. For sure. Yeah, no more of those holes. It doesn't make those weird holes that Dynamesh makes. There's no, if your fingers are close together, it's going to join them. ZRemesher doesn't have any of those issues, okay? It's a way nicer way to work, in my opinion. This is almost as big of a eureka moment for me personally as it was blocking out characters with primitive shapes. Like when I first kind of was testing this out and getting it working and everything, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to get this going. But then it means I have to rewrite part of my course, and I'm like, it's going to take me forever. So I'm just trying to figure out how this method fits into what I'm currently teaching and how it's going to work. So yeah, it's been kind of one of those, how am I going to fix this? I'm going to show you how pinch works now. So I can come in here, and pinch will actually work on this low of resolution. It's nice. And I can even pinch around these eye sockets if I want to. Let me see. Okay. I'm trying to figure out why it's going. It's being a little sluggish. I don't know if it's because I'm streaming right now or not. So pinch works. It's great. And if you have something like this that you don't want, so say I was going to show you the horns, you can. I'm going to turn off dynamic. I'm going to turn on Sculptress Pro mode again, and I can take this smooth. Okay, I'm just on smooth, and I can smooth it out of existence, right? And then if I do that, I can keep smoothing. I can just ZRemesh it and it's gone. Okay, that's just one thing you can do. But you just need to be careful, because if you already have the nice edge loops in there now that you want to keep, you want to make sure you have to re-peak those edges so it's going to flow around there again. That's the only kind of gotcha that this method uses, is you really have to kind of keep your peaks and valleys until you're like, okay, this is the geometry that I want, and then you can leave it alone from there. Okay, so I'm going to bring them back because I'm not going to ZRemesh right now. I want to show you how you can use ZModeler now to affect the ear and actually make the interior of that ear. Okay, so if I take this ear, and I have enough geometry that I can kind of work with, okay, there's a couple things I can do. I'm packing in so much training right now. I hope you guys are okay with it. I'm just kind of going everywhere, because I want you to have this training right now so you can use it and work with it and kind of figure it out with me, you know. There's a couple things I can do. If I hold down mask, I can kind of mask this interior of this ear right here. Okay? And if I hit Control W, it's going to make a new polygroup out of what I just masked. But you can see that it now looks like an 8-bit ear, you know, like an old video game ear. And that's not what I want. I want a nice, smooth selection around there. So what I can do is I'm going to go back to mask, and I'm going to go to geometry, go to edge loop, and hit edge loop masked border. Okay, this is also in my my menu right here. It's under masking, edge loop mask border. So if I click that, now look what that does. It will actually make a new shape based off of that mask. Okay, and I can look at it and I go, you know what, this is coming in too far over here. I'm gonna undo that, and I'm gonna delete some of this mask to make a better shape. And maybe it came too far down right here. And let's try that again. Edge loop mask border. Okay, that's a better shape. Now that I have that shape, I can clear that mask, and I can either start to edit it by hand. So this isn't the best ear on the planet. So I'm just going to kind of push this in a little bit, and just kind of refine where that line goes around. What you can do is you can use polish. It's also under here. It's polish by features. So under deformation, polish by features. If you crank that up a little bit, you'll notice that it cleans it up. But I went a little too far, because it also cleans up other areas you need to watch out for. So polish by features, let's just crank it a little bit. Okay, so basically it cleans up that shape. Really nice. Okay, so now that I have that shape, what I can do, yes, this is absolutely being recorded, and I'll put this up. I'll put this in the course so you can watch it again until I actually get the real lessons done. Okay, so now what I can do is I can shape this a little bit more by hand, because I want this kind of ear. I don't even know what that thing's called. That little thing that presses in. Okay, so now that I have it like this, I can go to my ZModeler, hover over a face, hold down spacebar, go to extrude polygroup all. Okay, that's going to extrude that entire polygroup. Then I can just push it into the ear like this. Okay. And I can then just lightly smooth it. I'm going to turn down my smooth intensity so it doesn't ruin it. Whoop. Looks like I still have Sculptor's Pro mode on. I'm just going to smooth this out so it's not a 90-degree angle into that ear. Then I can just grab move and then just reshape this. And now I have it, you know, this is one of those tools that you cannot use if you have subdivision levels. But if I turn on dynamic smoothing and I turn off my polygroups, let me switch to like Zebra Gray, you can kind of see how, you can kind of see the power of this thing, right? So you can see how you can create nice cavities, you know, you can do that with the mouth, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And then like, see the connection to the head right here is kind of weird. You can use fill, just come back in here and fill it in. So it's a smoother connection to the head. It's just easier to edit geometry that is that low in resolution, in my opinion. That's why I like to keep it not extremely low, but low enough that you can edit it, but not really high so you're like fighting with it. You know what I mean? So, okay, now I made this the demon monkey with an ear. Okay, so let's go back to this face. And if I go to let's just pretend that I use the method of combining and you know, ZRemeshing what I did, then this is showing you, let me go back to Skin Shade 4. This is showing you the same technique of I just masked this eye mask out and then I used that mask edge loop border to get a nice edge loop like this. And then same with the mouth. And then I also did the polish by features to smooth those out. And that kind of gives me a nice start to then push and pull these things around. And I also made another poly group just for the eyes. I was just kind of messing with it, trying to get it to behave. Poly groups in masking and in, you know, to create masks or to create mouth cavities, they're not really necessary, so to speak. They're nice because they help you out and they flow, but it's definitely not necessary. So I was going to show you how I created this mouth. Okay, so this is kind of a similar thing, but the step that I left out that you can see, and it still works. You don't have to do what I just showed you, which is using edge loop mask border. So with this particular case, I just masked this mouth shape out and I just pushed it into the head with complete disregard to the geometry that it was making. It actually made a mess, right? Then I did a ZRemesh on it, which this is the result, and then I went in there and I smoothed it out because it is going to make a mess if you do it that way. The smooth or the edge loop mask border will give you a nicer result up front. So it's all completely up to you if you want to play with that or not. Okay. Then you come in here and you just move the mesh around to close it. And then you use inflate when you get very, very close. So let me show you that really quick. Okay. So if I'm on this one, and I will make a mouth cavity this big or maybe a little bit smaller just so I can see the interior. And you can make that mouth cavity as big as you want. Okay. Let's see. Oh, there's questions I'm missing. To move that in, you use the move with topology on? No, I did not, Troy. I just extruded it in. With, yeah, like these guys are saying, with the Z modeler brush. I just use extrude because it was its own poly group. I just said extrude by polygroup all, and then I just pushed it in, which created another loop of geometry. If you're just trying to push it in with topology, it wouldn't work. So you have to use that extrude. So with this mouth cavity, I can then, you know, make it any shape I want. I can even hide one of these edge loops, and this is really nice to do because now that I have this edge loop running all the way around my mouth, I can do two different things. I can grab this select lasso, and it only works with select lasso. Hold down select lasso and hold down Control plus Shift and click on one of these edges, right? And you've probably seen this before. It will hide an edge loop, okay? And what I've essentially done is I have made two separate mesh islands by doing that. I mean, the loop is hidden, but still it's for what I'm going to use as auto groups. And for auto groups to function, all it needs is mesh islands. So if I pull this up and I hit auto groups, you'll see that it will create the mouth interior. It'll give it a new polygroup, and it'll give the head its own polygroup. And if I unhide that loop that I hid, that is in a third polygroup. So there's three. And if I want that loop to be in one of these groups, it's really, really easy. All I have to do is hold down Control plus Shift, tap on a vertice, then tap on it again, because I want it to be part of the head group, not part of the mouth interior group. And I could do it either way, it doesn't matter. I just need to make it so it's showing along with the other one. Then I just hit Control W. Then it puts that edge loop in whichever group I want it to be in, okay? If that makes sense. But since it's pink and the interior of the mouth's pink, it looks like it's all one polygroup, but it's not. So I'm going to undo that actually, and I'm going to hit Control W again. That just puts whatever is showing in its own polygroup and change the color. So now if I show the interior of the mouth again, now it's pink, a pink polygroup. Now what I can do is I can isolate this, see this bag, and then I can hit double over here, and that will show me both sides of the mesh. And you can see that it's pretty crappy. This isn't the greatest mouth bag you've ever seen. It's actually, it doesn't work as a mouth bag. So what you want to do is kind of make it a mouth bag shape if you want to eventually use it for animation. So you can just drag this back and drag this up and kind of smooth this out. I'm using the advanced smooth, which is you start smoothing and you let go of smooth, and then it just kind of relaxes the mesh along the surface rather than smoothing it down like this. It'll just relax it. See that? Here, I'm going to show you one more time, because I know a lot of you are using it because I preach it, but I want to show you one more time. I'm smoothing, and now I'm letting go of smooth. See the difference there? I'll do it one more time. So I'm smoothing, sorry. So I'm smoothing, letting go of smooth. So smooth will kind of collapse it more, and if you let go of smooth while you're still moving your brush, it will relax it across the surface more. So it will not lose your volume as much. Okay, now you can also use inflate to bring this back, but since the geometry is flipped, because I'm actually painting on the reversed side, like if I turn off this double, you can't see it now, but I'm actually sculpting on the inverted side of those faces. So what that means is my regular inflate brush is actually going to inflate inwards, which is backwards from its normal functionality. So I need to hold down Alt so it actually inflates outwards. And then I can actually make a nice big mouth cavity. And I can even use move or extrude, and I can make a throat if I wanted to. If I wanted to extrude a throat or something, I could do the exact same thing where I mask off an area, and then I can say, oh goodness, edge loop mask border. What did it say? Oh, I can't. It won't function on a hidden mesh. So let me try it one more time with it unhidden. Edge loop mask border, and it's going to give me this weird little thing. I can smooth it out like this. And then who was asking about that? I'm going to show you again, Troy. I'm going to grab this Z modeler, and it's still on the same function. So I have a new polygroup that I just created. I can push it in like this, and it's going to extrude along that surface, and then I can smooth it down. It's really fast, but I'm using my mouse. Probably not the best idea. My smooth intensity. At this low resolution, your smooth intensity really makes it fast. And you can also put a tongue in there, blah, 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 you know, any of that stuff. It's you. I hope you kind of get the idea of the power of this. Okay. Yeah, that's all I did. And you can put this whole thing in its own sub, you know, its own polygroup or not. Like I could just do that and put this whole thing in its own polygroup, or I could leave it like this. What I want to do now is I can ZRemesh it if I wanted to. So I can go pull this back up, hit the gear, ZRemesh by ZRemesher. This is too high. I'm going to go down to about 2000. Boom. Oh, this is not, looks like it's not on center. For some reason the head is like, okay, see how it's like sideways and weird? I'm going to undo that. And then actually, it's based on the gizmo. Okay, that's something I just actually learned right now, you know, teaching you guys. See how the gizmo is slightly skewed? Here, let's look from the top. See how it's slightly skewed like that? When I hit Remesh by ZRemesher, it actually put the bounding box in the same axis as that gizmo. So I need to make sure that I hit home. Sorry, I hold down Alt, hit home, and I hold down Alt and I hit this arrow. The arrow is important to straighten that out. Now, if I do the ZRemesher, there we go. Now it should work just fine. Boom, there we go. So I ZRemesh this again, and it gave me a nice surface without all the crap going on down in the throat or whatever. You know, I kind of went too far with that, but I just wanted to show you how to close these lips, and then we'll talk about the contest coming up. Okay, so let's turn off floor. And all I did was to close this mouth, as I turn on topological, turn range down to 3. That's just the fall off of the brush when you're working in topological, which you should already know, but if you didn't, there's a refresher. Then you can just kind of work this mouth back closed. You want to make sure that you're not getting too far away from the chin or too far away from the nose. You're just trying to be gradual about it. And it will still affect the other side when you start to get around the mouth corner. So you just make your brush a little smaller because that's essentially your fall off. Then you can come in here with smooth and just kind of even that geometry out going up to the lips. And I'm using the alternate smooth to do that. And this is about as close as I get before I start using inflate. And I don't know what happened to my nose here, but it kind of got demolished. I'd have to rework that. But in the middle of the mouth, I can get right closed. I can get closed. But when it comes to the corners of the mouth, see what happens is it just kind of goes back and forth. I can sort of work it closed going back and forth. But it's better at this point to start to inflate. Okay, so, and it'll also start to inflate to start making the lips too. And you'll be surprised how much easier it is to get to that mouth shape when you actually have a mouth cavity like this. You can just kind of go back and forth. So you can see that this mouth is already starting to, I mean, he looks like he's going, but it's already starting to form, and I just need to pull these cheeks in and start forming this and wrapping it around the teeth. If you think of the mouth having teeth to wrap around, it's way easier as well. And you can build teeth inside. I think I was talking to Danny about this the other day, and he was saying that kind of a good thing that he's been doing lately is building teeth inside there to give him a guide to wrap his mouth around. If that makes sense. And I can turn off topological, so I'm moving both at the same time. Now, if I get to this point, I can start to cut in the lips themselves with the pinch brush. And all I do is I start with the corner, and then I just kind of pinch up along here. And it just depends on the concept, how steep the lips actually curve. See that? Boom, top lip. Crazy, right? Then I can do the same with the bottom lip. But with the bottom lip, you want to start inside. Here, let me get a pointer, a Dylan Ekron arrow. Okay, so the upper lip started from here, and it worked its way in, right? With the bottom lip, you start it about here, and it's not a very tight edge, and then you come down about here, and then it gets tighter as it goes down. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, Daniel, Dynamesh, get away from. I hardly ever use Dynamesh anymore, to be honest with you. Dynamesh is fantastic if you want to if you want to experiment, okay? So you can see with this Zebro gray, you can start to see the facets, and this is with dynamic turned on. I'm actually manipulating a mesh that is this low, okay? And it looks like my symmetry is getting off here. That sometimes happens when your brush is too big and it goes across the center line, and if it affects some of the verts on the opposite side, and you just fix that with mirror and weld, not a big deal. And you can kind of see how you bring this out. You can also use move, you can use pinch, and you can use a Z modeler tool too. So you can see how, here, let me mirror and weld this really quick. I'm gonna smooth. Just gonna smooth this down. And you can come in here and manipulate each vert if you want. Like, see how it's nice and pinched right here, and then it goes way up here. But you can physically grab these points and move them down here. Okay, and then after you do that, you can do a mirror and weld, and it will fix that other side. And then you can move this away so it doesn't get caught up in that pinch. You can pull them in. You know, this is like old box modeling when you get to this point. But it's kind of cool with this is you can use Z modeler tools to add an edge if you want. Like, say I want another edge in here. What I can do, I just click the Z modeler brush. I can add an edge, and it's not really going to hurt anything. It's just going to give me more detail, and I can do that because I don't have subdivision levels. It's another reason why you can keep, you know, use the dynamic subdivision levels. And you can come in here and smooth this just so it evens it out a little bit, you know, across the surface. Hit dynamic subdivisions, and you can kind of see how those lips are working or not working. Smooth it out as it goes to the corners of the mouth. See, and then you can just kind of smooth it out, and those don't look too bad. You can come in here with inflate and just inflate that lower lip a bit, but it's grabbing the upper lip. And you can turn topological on any brush. So say I don't want to affect this upper lip when I'm inflating. So I can turn topological on my inflate brush. Again, turn range down to 3 so it doesn't affect it. Then hit inflate, and it won't affect that upper lip. Pretty nice. Then once again, I can come in here with pinch and just kind of pinch this. And there we go. And then it should eventually look something like this. I took a little more time on these lips and this face, and I kind of made the ridges, and you can see how I did the ear. Same way I showed you on that ape. I just did the masking, edge loop, mask border, extruded it in. Same thing. Same thing, same thing. Okay, Stu asked, any changes in retopo of the mouth cavities made this way? Absolutely not. The only difference is you just have a mouth cavity sooner in the pipe. So sooner in your process. But when it actually comes down to retopologizing, in the course I teach you how to take your low resolution mesh and extrude it in to make a mouth bag. You can still do that. Or you can actually like retop the inside of the mouth. It's a little more difficult because it's in there, you know, it's like kind of hard to get to. And sometimes what I've done with that in the past, here, I'll go to full screen for a second. what I've done with that in the past is I've actually cut the head in half, and I've brought half of the head into like Maya or 3D Coder, wherever I'm doing my retopology. That way I can actually see what I'm doing inside of the mouth cavity. Then I'll bring that retopologized half head out and then mirror it together and stitch it together. Or I should say I'll bring it to like Maya or something, or you can do it inside of ZBrush with mirror and weld. You know, there's all different kinds of ways to get in there and edit that kind of stuff. So anyway, that is in a nutshell kind of the new technique of experimenting with ZRemesher, or making cavities with it. And that's kind of the method that I've been using lately on my streams, is kind of keeping to this level as long as I possibly can, staying away from Dynamesh, staying away from subdivision levels, and kind of staying away from Sculptris Pro mode unless I specifically absolutely need it for, you know, reasons, you know. So otherwise, I will only use Sculptris Pro mode and Dynamesh these days for experimentation, like I said. So if you want to experiment, go, you know, be my guest, go for it. But it likes to add warbles to your surface. You know, it really, really likes to be bumpy. So if you're looking for a clean, smooth, stylized mesh, I would stay away from Dynamesh and stay away from Sculptris Pro. Anyway, so let's go talk about... Oh, any questions before I move on? I know I was kind of going fast. You can watch this back. I'll make this recording will be available actually at the exact same spot in the community right away. So if you just click on play, you'll be able to watch it. So let's see, we've gone an hour and 22 minutes. Okay, got to remember to move that topological button to the top of the screen so I don't have to go digging for it. Yeah, Joanne, that's why I have it on my user interface. If you want to know where it is, there's two ways. The first way is holding control on any of the buttons on my user interface. If you hold control, at the very bottom it says button path, and it will tell you exactly where that button lives in the actual default interface. But I can show you, you can see it lives in under brush, auto masking, topological. So if you go to brush, go down to auto masking, and it's right there. And then your range for it is right there. And I never use smooth, so that's not on my user interface. It's just this range and this topological. So that's where you grab it. Anyway, I hope that helps. Now, for the... And go ahead and ask questions, and I'll get to them if you do have questions. Yes, Cosmo, I will. This is just a preview of the lesson that's coming, so you guys can have the information right now. So I didn't want to like stall out and hold this information out from you anymore, because I know a lot of you are still building your mouths the way I taught in the course, by just creasing a line and then building the lips that way. This is a way better method. It's easier to get your mouths looking nice this way. So I just wanted to get you guys the information so you can be doing it yourself sooner than waiting for me to get the lesson put up there. So anyway, let's see. Yeah, and it might, like I said, it might be multiple lessons if I need to pack all that information into, you know, this has been an hour and a half teaching you guys this. So you can see, where is it? Yeah, you can, here's my writing. This is, you know, so you've finished your block out. Now what? What are the next steps? So this is me writing this this next lesson, and yeah, it's getting there. I've been writing on it for a long time because it's been changing, and I wanted to make sure that it was good information before, you know, delivering it to you guys. And I've been, I mean, it sounds like excuses, but I've also been doing that contract work for Blizzard, which is now done, and yeah, we're going on. Okay, so for this month's competition, I'm actually telling you guys 2 days early so you can start today, because you're going to know about it today. But it goes until, I'm just going to do this 1 month instead of 2. It's going to go to the end of July. So it's going to start today. Oh my goodness. No. Okay. I don't know what just happened there. It's going to start today and then end at the end of July. And what it is, it's just a bust. So it's just like this, just a head. And I want you guys, if you can, to experiment with this method and post your method and ask your questions as you're going through this process, because I want you guys to understand it and get used to it and hopefully love it. Hopefully you guys will love it. So that's why I wanted to roll out this information, is because the challenge is based on this, because I want you guys to try it and use it and do it. And I would like you guys to base it on the concept art done by Randy Bishop. So if you guys know who Randy Bishop is, I will switch my screens. Piero Paolo, the information, I can tell you that I did a Zenyatta skin for Overwatch, but I can't say what it is. It's going to come out like the end of summer sometime. I don't know the exact date, but yes, as soon as I get permission to tell you guys, I'll let you know for sure. Okay. I need to find my pages. Is it, gosh dang, where is it? Sorry, I had this whole thing. Okay. So Randy Bishop, I made a Pinterest page. Okay. I made a Pinterest page of Randy Bishop's heads. So essentially, I would love you guys to make a bust, a character head based on one of Randy Bishop's drawings, if you can find one, a concept art. And just know that most of these have been modeled before. So the reason why is because Randy knows his volumes very, very well, and his characters are extremely appealing, as you can see. So a lot of modelers gravitate towards his designs and model them. So just know that these designs will probably have already been modeled in the past, and it's completely fine. The reason I was gravitating towards Randy's concepts in particular is, if you will notice, on a lot of his designs, he has this eye shape around this outer eye cheek brow shape around his regular eye shape. And I really want you guys to pay attention to that and get it, because it's being missed a lot. Okay. So like just the roll on that cheek is getting missed. And I would love you guys to find a concept that actually just get it into your sculpts if you can. Okay. And not even stuff like this girl. Why is that not coming up? Well, anyway, even stuff like this, it gets smoother on females, but it's still there. As you roll the character around in the light, you can still see where that path travels over that peak of that cheek, okay? And it's just, essentially, it's your skull, it's your cheekbone underneath there making that shape. And it can change shape to that third crease like I talked about earlier today, but just be aware of that. Okay, and then he also has an art station. There's some there that you can find, and I'll put these links underneath the community on the community today. Then he also has a Pinterest page, and a lot of these have not been modeled. Okay, so if you, not Pinterest, I said Pinterest, I meant Twitter. Okay, so he has a Twitter account. It's Randy Bishop Art. And if you go here, he's from Idaho. He lives one state north of me, if for your geography lesson for the day. He just lives up north. And I've been talking to him. He said he already gave permission. And I told him that he might be getting a lot of students asking him for permission to model different models. So make sure if you want to ask him, I do have preliminary permission to do this, but just to make sure, ask him. And he's also going to be one of the judges for this. So just like Luigi, he'll be judging. He'll be one of the judges. So I'm super excited about that. And I lost the broadcast. Where is it? So I can see your comments. Okay. Yes, Lou, this will be available right when we're done. It will actually be in the community. You can just click on the link in the video and you can watch it right after this. So it'll be available. Super cool. Swimsuit Zenyatta with beach balls. That'd be awesome. Have you seen the Junkrat one? It's his winter one was actually a summer one because he's from Australia and it's summer in Australia when it's winter here. So his winter one was actually a summer outfit, which was great. I loved that. Also, Randy has a couple books. He has this one. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Works and Progress. So you can purchase this one for $20, and he also has this Heads one that, and I'll give you these links too in the community. And then sketches and such. But I actually have that Heads one right here, and he signed it for me. I met him at CTN. Well, he's there every single year, so if you ever make it out to CTN, he's usually there selling his latest sketches and prints and books and things like that. So super nice guy. And this Heads has a lot of heads in it, but a lot of the images out of here are images you can find on Pinterest or you can find online. And like I said, just know that they have probably been modeled before, so don't be disappointed if you get modeling the concept and you're like, oh, somebody's already done this. Yeah, most likely someone has, and they've done, like my friend Matt Thorpe's done it, and Guz has done it, and just a lot of modelers really love his stuff. So, hey, there's a cowboy and a dinosaur. Anyway, I don't know who that's by. It's not, I don't think it's Randy Bishop, but anyway, game res or not, that's completely up to you, Sean. For this one, I'm caring more about how closely you match the concept. Like if you nail that concept, that's what I'm looking for. It can still be high res if you want to take it to game res. That's completely up to you. But before you do, make sure you've nailed that concept. That's kind of what I'm looking for in this one, and I'm sure that's what Randy's going to care about, is how close you come to nailing that concept. So, and like I said before, game res would be fantastic. Honestly, it really would. But just don't get caught up in the game res and without hitting the concept first. Because like I said before, if you can nail a concept with your model, there is work in the industry for you. Because that is what companies want to hire you to do. They do want to hire you to make very nice game models, but that's kind of like the second step, right? They want you to really nail the concept, number one, above all else. Number two, game character. So yeah, let's take it one bite at a time this way. Let's see, is it compulsory to choose Andy Bishop's art for content? No, it's Randy Bishop. It's not Andy. That's for one. And just to keep everybody in the same, realm and contest. Yes, I would love it if you could pick one of Randy's concepts. Just so it's kind of this bucket that everybody's in, if that makes sense. So, is there any questions on that? Other than that? And you'll have until July. Let's see. Let me look at a calendar here. So July 31st. It's a 1 month short one, just because it's a bust. And if you get one done, you want to do another one, do it. And if you do a second one, by all means, move into another concept artist if you want. If you have some passion for somebody else or another artist that you really want to do, and you want to use this method for that, feel free. So anyway, I don't know what this sculpt is. Let's get back to let me see. Okay, there we go. So did Randy want us to contact him via email for permission? Yeah, you can do that if you'd like, or through Facebook or through Twitter. Any way you can contact him. I personally usually talk to him through Facebook, but I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. Yeah, I'll ask him what his preferred method of contact is, and then I'll make sure I get his email and put it in there. So I'll pin a challenge pin up in the community, and maybe I'll send out an email to everybody too. So I'm just thinking out loud right now, the best way to do it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's. It's not really a Q&A. It's more like a live lesson on how to use ZRemesher. And so is it mandatory to use Randy's designs? Yes. Yes. So if you want to partake of the challenge, yes, it is mandatory to use his designs. Yep. So just like we did with the Luigi challenge, you know, Luigi is the concept artist. This time, Randy is the concept artist. So, yep, I will. And like I said, I'll get you the email. I'll do that stuff as soon as possible. And I'll get you a link to his Twitter and his ArtStation and the Pinterest page that I put together on all of his stuff. Yeah, so that would be, yeah, he has tons and tons and tons of concept art. If you just want to do a search beyond those things, he has so much out there. I'm pretty sure you can find, you know, some art that you like. Hopefully, I really hope so. I've modeled one of his before. I modeled a character for his Monolith. If you've heard of Monolith, that's one of his passions. It's a story that he's put together about. I think it's one of his stories, but he has some characters from it. Like that blue guy, this guy, Monomyth is what it is. And the main boy in this story, he had me model once. And this blue guy right here was modeled by Letitia, which has also been one of the judges in our challenges, and I want to get an interview with her. The interview with Tyler Bolyard happens tomorrow night. It's not going to be live. I'm just going to be recording it tomorrow night. Then I'll edit it down and I'll get it put up as fast as possible. And I also have an interview coming with Brad Bolender. Brad was a co-worker, and he's a great friend of mine. He's going to sit down right here with me, just like Ian did, and we're going to go through a bunch of characters that Brad built. Brad built, like, he did Rapunzel, and he did, let me see. Oh, so many of them. That was one of his big ones. Maleficent, and yeah, he's done so many. He's a really great guy. He is here so he moved to Finland to work on Clash of Clans. Now he's moved back here to Utah for a short time before he moves to San Francisco to also work on Clash of Clans in their studio in San Francisco. So while he's here in town, I've already gone to lunch with him, and I invited him to do an interview with me, and I can't wait to have that happen. So it's going to be super cool. So, oh, you'll post the link there. Okay. Thanks you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And I'm trying to do these Friday things on a regular basis now that I'm done with that Blizzard contract. So I'm going to try and do something like this every single Friday, where it's either a Q&A or it's a live lesson or an interview of some type or whatever. I will try and deliver content every Friday. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'm looking forward to your challenge entries in the next month. So I can't wait to see them. And if you, like I said, if you have any questions on the techniques that I showed here today, feel free to ask, and I will answer any questions you have. So anyway, thanks you guys. Have a great one. Take care. We'll see you next time. All right.